Welcome back to our music theory lessons. This is going to be lesson 2 in no particular order, a bit of a recap of what we learned from the previous video. These are our notes. We have a whole note. We enlikened the whole note to a whole orange, and we split that onto how you would split an orange from whole to halves to quarters, and each quarter, if you cut it in the middle like that, you'll end up having 8 pieces, which would be an eighth. All right, so that idea of cutting an orange, if you relate it with music, you have your whole note. If you split a whole note, which a whole note is 4 counts long, if you split a whole note into 2 equal parts, you would get a minim and another minim on this side. So these are the other names. A semibreve is also known as a whole note. A minim is also known as a half note. A crotchet is also known as a quarter note. A quaver is also known as an eighth note. So I will use the terms interchangeably, and you get to listen in on the one that you identify with. So either way, you are okay. Now, a whole note is 4 counts. So if you split 4 counts into 2 equal parts, you'll end up getting 2 counts on this side and 2 counts on this side, which ideally then would mean that a half note gets 2 counts when you're playing it on an instrument. If you split a half count into 2 equal parts, you will get, if you split the half note, or what we call minims, into 2 equal parts, you're going to get crotchets. So if a minim is 2 counts, it then means if you split the 2 counts into 2 equal sides, you'll get a 1 count note on this side and another 1 count note on this side. So it goes without saying that a crochet, also known as a quarter note, gets 1 count each, right? So every time you're playing a semibreve, you will hold it down for 4 counts. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. A minim is 2 counts each. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You hold it for 2 counts. A crochet would get 1 count each. 1, 1, 1, 1. So if you can picture that, and I'm gonna tap it since I'm here and the table is close by, so it would be just easy to say, if you're holding this on an instrument, the semibreve, you would play, if you're pressing down on a piano, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you were playing that on a piano, then it would be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So you're holding on to the note down for 2 counts. If you had that and you had 4 of them, then you would play like this: 1, 1, 1, 1. So each one of them gets 1 count each. Now, for each crochet, if you split it into 2, you will end up getting quavers, which ideally means by the time someone says 1, you should have played 2 notes. Okay, so that is where the word rhythms come into play. So sometimes when you see this, as a child is learning, depending on the rhythms that you're taught, we coin some words to help children remember better. So for instance, anytime you see those, that would be 1, 1, 1, 1. When you see quavers, ideally, instead of drawing them like that in a piece of music, what usually happens, they are beamed together. So instead of each one of them having a tail, as it shows here, they would look like that. It's like that tail and that tail are joined together to create that, so that it looks neater and it's easier for the person reading the music. So to just have an idea and a rhythm behind your head, so instead of saying 1, 1, 1, 1, which is fine because that is what most people say, 1, 1, 1, 1. If you had the same number of quavers, also known as eighth notes, that would match with these 4 counts, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one of them getting 1 count, 1 count, 1 count, 1 count. So if you had that as your quavers, that would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, which ideally at the end of the day means that a crochet, also known as a quarter note, will balance equally with 2 of those. So if you were to put those on a weighing scale, those 2 balance each other out. 1 crochet on one side would balance with 2 quavers on the other side. So if you were to give them a count, this would be 1 count, 1 count, 1 count, 1 count. So for purposes of counting, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Sometimes we create rhythms so that it's easier for the children to remember. So you might hear your teacher saying walk, 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 running, 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 walk, 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 running, 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 running. Ideally, the shorter the note, the faster it is. So that's why these ones are walkers and these ones are running. And if you compare this minim and this one, ideally, these ones will be faster than those. So these ones will be played faster than those. That will sound like it's moving faster than that. And this will move faster than that. Because this one you're holding it for 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 1, 2, 1, 2. So by the time you reach halfway in counting into that, it will be time for playing the next one. So ideally, the shorter the note, the faster it's played. Now, today's lesson was to relate the name of the note with the time signature. So what we call a whole note, what we call a half note, we are going to notice the number at the bottom. The number at the bottom will ideally affect so much the time signatures which we see in most of our songs as we play a piece of music. So anytime you play a piece of music, I'm going to draw this in, and we're going to have another lessons of how to draw a proper treble clef and how to draw a proper bass clef. All right, and why it's important to know how to draw them. So there you have it. Anytime you start playing a piece of music, before you get deep into it, you're going to find a number at the beginning, way before you see your notes. So the number, for instance, could be 2, 4. It could be 3, 4. It could be 4, 4. So, if you notice the number at the bottom, in this case being a 4, relate to what had a 4 at the bottom. If the number at the bottom is a 4, when we were drawing our notes, writing whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note, what note had a 4 at the bottom? It was a crochet, also known as a quarter note. So, what they are telling you, in this case, anytime you see a 4 at the bottom, the top number is 2, they're telling you, please play 2 quarter notes in a measure. If the number at the top is a 3, remember the 4 at the bottom relates to the note value. The note value. If it's a 4, what had a 4 while you were looking at your notes? Half note, quarter note, eighth note. The number at the bottom is a 4. The number at the bottom is a 4. We are talking about quarter notes. So that would mean 2, 4 would be 2 quarter notes in a measure. 2 quarter note value in a measure. So let's see how that goes. For instance, if you have 2, 4 here, and I'm going to use 1, 2. A measure is the space between bars. So that's the first measure, and this is the second measure. So a measure is also known as a bar. A bar, music is written on a staff or a stave. These 5 lines are called a staff or a stave, and they are divided into sections by these bar lines. And when you divide like that, now they are in sections called a measure or a bar. So this is bar 1. This is bar 2. If I put another line here, then that will be my bar 3. And then if I put another one here, that will be my bar 4. And if I put double lines at the end, then it means my piece of music ends there because of the double bar lines. Okay, so we have a staff or a stave, which is the 5 lines and the 4 spaces where music is written. And the 5 lines and the 4 spaces are divided into sections called bars or measures by use of bar lines. Okay, so back to our time signature. When you see a 2, 4, the number at the bottom, the 4, would align with a quarter note. So what they're telling you when they say 2, 4, they're talking about 2 quarter notes in every measure. So you would either expect them to be that and that, or it can be that and 2 of this, or it can even be 4 of this, and it can also be just 1 of that. So in a piece of music where the measure is 2, 4, you would not expect to see a whole note, because a whole note in itself is too big for the time signature indicated there. And the same applies to 3, 4 and 4, 4. So you can be creative with those measures, and I will come and continue this lesson because the idea is to keep music fun and to keep it under 15 minutes so that it's encouraging. And every time you need another lesson, you can always communicate with Teacher Hannah, and I'm always here to help. So remember, the name of the note gives you an idea of the number, the measure. When they say 3, 4, they are telling you exactly who is the boss in the measure. 3, 4 would be crochet beats, 3 crochet beats in a bar. How you know is the crochet? When you have a 4 at the bottom, it's talking about that, the quarter note. Let's see. If you had, for instance, 3, 2. Now, where did we have a 2? We had a 2 when we were talking of half notes. So when they say 3, 2, for instance, it would then mean you need to have 3 half notes in a measure. And that can either be that, as long as there are 3, because if you add these 2 together, you would end up with that. So 3, 2, the number at the bottom is talking about half notes, minims. So you always remember the name of the note goes to help you when you're looking at the time signature. All right, when you see this time, who's the boss in this time? Look at the number at the bottom. Aha, it's a quaver, what is also known as an 8th note. When you were talking about the 8th note, the 8 was down here when you were talking about quavers. So in this case, the 8 is in relation to quavers. There you go. So who's boss here? 3 quavers in a measure would mean those 3 or anything that will lead or add up to 3 quiver counts. So that can either be that, it can be that. Those are 3 also because there's 2 quavers in a crochet. All right, and it can also be that, a crochet with a dot. Again, is another lesson altogether of how a dot affects a note when a dot is next to a note. That's all for today. Just remember, the name of the note will also help you when you're trying to identify the time signatures in telling you who's boss. 2-4, the 4 is for the quarter notes. 3-2, the 2 is talking about half notes. 3-8, the 8 is in relation to eighth notes. That's all we have for today. See you next time.